Hi, it's Gil Robles, and it's Friday. That means that I am posting a new video on YouTube, and this video is going to be a little bit different. I'm drawing the head in different ways, and I'm demonstrating it on Sketchbook Pro. So these heads come mostly out of my imagination. The first head I'm drawing is the head that everyone seems to gravitate towards, and that's the way Andrew Loomis introduced drawing the head in his books. This seems to be like the classical approach now that comic book artists and uh, what do you call concept artists and so forth take to drawing the anatomy of the head. And it's I'm just demonstrating it here. I'm not getting into anything too specific other than showing doing a quick demo of how I would do it, because there's so many great videos on drawing the head like Andrew Loomis that are on YouTube, that all you got to do is type in Andrew Loomis, and you'll see a bunch of videos on how to draw the head like Andrew Loomis. His books are available. They were out of print for a long time, but if you go on Amazon.com, you could view how to draw the head by Andrew Loomis and so forth. And it's great books. I highly recommend them. Many artists have learned from drawing, or from getting at least part of their education on these Andrew Loomis books. I know one of there are a few great artists. You can name guys like Alex Ross, who does these painted covers for Marvel and DC and other comic books. You can talk about other artists, other comic book artists, who highly recommend these books. I think they're great. I have them in my library. I highly recommend them. But again, you can just type in Andrew Loomis. You'll see a bunch of terrific demonstrations on how to draw the head like Andrew Loomis, and it's just one of many ways of drawing the head. If you even look at how to draw comic books the Marvel way, a lot of the way John Buscema drew it, even though his is still very individual and different from what you would see, um, the finished product would be different from what you would see in from Andrew Loomis. It still follows that same construction, And this again is just a demonstration. I don't normally draw like that. I don't. I keep that construction in mind, and this is something similar. I'm drawing this out of my head. This is more of a more of a comic book face, and I'm keeping in mind all those things that you saw me start that head before with the Andrew Loomis construction and so forth. But I'm taking some liberties here. Like the first thing I did, I did draw that circle very lightly. I indicated the lines, and I basically found the cheekbones first, because for me that kind of like is the center of everything. From the cheekbones, I could sculpt the skull a lot better, or determine where it's going, and which is pretty much, what helps me or guides me through finding the rest of the features of the head. Now I still drawing those lines for where the eyes is, but it's in relationship to where the cheekbones are, and where the nose is again, and the ears, and there are a lot of videos on drawing the head, and there are a lot of wonderful videos on drawing the head, and there's so many ways of doing it. Basically, I don't forget those first things that I started out with as far as Andrew Loomis. I mean, I take some liberties, but I'm remembering the construction of the head based on what Andrew Loomis had shown, and I go from there. The reason why is because I want to get some variety. I keep that in mind, and I learned how to draw that way. But for me, if I stick too closely to that, it comes out stiff. It comes out kind of boring, and that's not what I want. I want some interest in the head. I want to exaggerate features. I want to make it more pliable. Now, there's a way that Andrew Loomis does that that works for him, and that's fine. You also got to find what works for you. Again, the circle, the line down the middle, then the cheekbones, then I start to search for the eyes and then the nose, and I start to exaggerate the features even before I draw where the chin is at and everything, because I start to concentrate on the different. I'm going for character here, and I can find the proportions of things in relationship to what I already have down, but I find that I can manipulate things more and and bring out a different, in this case as a pirate, a different kind of character than what I would have done if I had just stuck to what I showed at the beginning. And there's nothing wrong with what I showed at the beginning. Some people are able to take that and exaggerate and do different things with it. I just feel like I need this approach to be able to exaggerate and push things and consider the either the features or different shapes and so forth in order to get some more character out of my drawing. And it's very important because, you don't want your drawing to look so stiff. And as I go along, I'm trying to push the eyes and make it more narrower, or just give him a look of menace on his face that I'm able to do if I'm just allowing myself a little bit more freedom than sticking to the lines, which is what I'm trying to get away from, so I can push things a little bit more. So, I mean, these are the things I do. That again, there are many ways of drawing the head. Ultimately, what counts is the finished product. Is it working? Does it, is it the head solid? Is it, is it an easy read? Do the features all work together and seem organic, rather than a bunch of details just floating around in a circle? You gotta be able to make the head work as a single unit, even though there's an eye, nose, mouth, so forth. That it has to make sense working together. So this is a pirate, not the best pirate I've drawn, but for these purposes, it shows how I've used what I've done with Andrew Loomis's approach, and added some of my own individual way of manipulating the features of the head and coming up with this pirate. So it's nice to have this tone background. I add this so I can add this white to bring out some more of the drawing. Move that aside, and then the other thing I'm going to draw here is a side view, and I'm going to stick to pretty much what was done before. How this is, I don't know if I got this so much from Andrew Loomis or the approach I'm using here of how to draw comics the Marvel way, or is this a combination of both? But I think it's similar. I just try to find things using that circle first, the lines and so forth, and able to pick out where all the features go. The first few lines are really you're searching and you're finding things, and then after you've done these light lines, you can go back in and refine them, like I'm doing now. And I'm looking, and you look for the landmarks, because this is a very, I'm using my imagination. I'm not drawing from a model here. I'm totally making this up out of my head. So you're looking for the landmarks that describe the features and make it all seem like it belongs there. Like the cheek belongs there, the eyes belong there, the hairline belongs there, and so forth. Drawing from a model, you're able to, I mean, there's so many different things that you can use, or drawing from references, so many different things you can use to help guide you. Whereas when you're drawing from your imagination, you have to remember those things and put the landmarks there. Whereas, from life, you would have shadow, you would have different things that you can indicate. You have to make this up, and then what I do is, what drawing from imagination comes out to a visual shorthand. This drawing, I'm taking more liberties now. I'm aware of the structure underneath, but I'm not drawing everything out right away. I started with the brows and the nose because I'm pushing for more exaggeration. I'm pushing the cheekbones up. I'm pushing the lips in. This not having that structural framework down so tight allows me to take liberties here and push things so that I don't, I come out of the norm. I come out of what is predictable, and I'm able to come up with something that I could not have come up with, not me anyway, if I stuck to that strict structured approach that Andrew Loomis has. Now, again, Andrew Loomis was able to take what he has because he understood what he was looking for. That was his way of drawing and his language. And one of the things that I found that I had to do was to take the way people do it, and I couldn't. I mean, there are some people who successfully adopted the way another artist would do something and incorporate it into their own work, and comes out just fine. But for me, I had to do it in a way that I would understand it, and do it in a way that I could continually not repeat the process, but well, in a way repeat it, but also take liberties with it. I had to do it in a way that I could understand it. And that's the best way of approaching some of these, is you learn what the rules are, you learn how it is that things are done, and then you add an approach that's uniquely you. I don't know if that's right entirely, but maybe. I don't want to, let me see, how would I put this? I don't want to say that that I have a new approach here, because I'm not claiming anything, but what I am saying is that you have to take things and you have to reinterpret it in a way that you can understand it better for yourself, for your own work, and using those methods, because I do keep in mind everything that was done before. I do keep in mind how, and because the same structure of the skull is there, so I'm keeping in mind the things that Andrew Loomis or John Buscema or any comic book artist would do, or any, but I'm also making it easier for myself by putting it in my own language, which is probably the best explanation that I can give. Is when you draw, it's your own handwriting, it's your own language, it's your way of reinterpreting the facts, reinterpreting what you see, and putting it down so that other people can read it. So this here, I've and I have a lot of influences. Some of the influence I have are, of course, the comic book artist, fine artist. I liked especially some of the artists who had drawn at Warren, some of the Spanish artists who drew at Warren magazines with books like Creepy and Vaporella and stuff like that. And some of this maybe reflects that. I don't know, maybe not, but I try to push for character and things while distort some of the features while it reading as a head would, so that it just looks not like a deformity or anything like that, but it just gives the drawing character. So I guess that's the best way I can describe what I'm doing. And of all of these, the last one, this one that I'm doing here, comes more naturally to the way I would draw if I'm drawing from my imagination. Now, I'm going to try a few female heads. The thing about females is that for me, they're a lot more difficult to draw than male heads, because there are certain demands when you draw a female head. With a male head, you can take more liberties. A male head does not have to be beautiful. It can be full of character. A female head has to have some kind of character, but the end result is the female needs to look beautiful. In order, people will not, unless you're drawing a witch or some kind of character like that, people don't understand why you would make a woman look not beautiful. So it's the push to make it look beautiful and to make it realistic. So it's something that's always been difficult for me, to make the features of the woman more softer than I would a man, to try to give it some character, as well as to make her look beautiful, and and it's for some people, and I'm not the only one that it's for. It's a little bit tricky. The all the features are the same as they are on a men's head, as on a male head. The only thing is that it has to look beautiful. So it's always been a challenge for me, especially to draw from imagination. Drawing from life, not so has its own challenges. I'm not saying that it's not difficult, but I'm not worried about whether or not I'm drawing the person that's in front of me. So of course it's going to look like whoever it is if I'm drawing it right. But I'm not worried about does she look beautiful or whatever. I'm drawing the person in front of me. Whereas if I'm drawing from my imagination, if I'm drawing for publication especially, they want the female to look beautiful. So these first two drawings, I think, for me, they came out more successful. They look better than other drawings of females that I've done from my imagination. This last one, like the last one I did of the male head, I'm going to push it more so that to see if I can use my own language to interpret a head, and again to make this female head look beautiful, at the same time do it in my own handwriting, so to speak, in my own way of drawing the human head. But you know what? Just to mention it, the most important thing is that you do draw from life. You do, because when you draw from life, you build up a reference file inside your head, a reference file of the diversity of heads, the shadows, shapes, etc. Different ways that you can draw the human head in order to you have it in your mind as a reference file, so to speak. So, and that's what you have to recall. It's still a challenge, but I find that it's the best way to It's the best reference to draw from other than opening books or getting photographs. If you're going to draw from your imagination, draw from life a lot. That's it. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed the video. Come back for more next week, and please subscribe to my channel.